Good morning, all. This is Dominic Pearl, your co-host with Dr. Jan Kasparowitz. Thanks for listening to the Elite Performance Podcast, episode number 8. If this is your first time listening, thanks for joining us. The EPT podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment. You can follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Elite Performance Team. In the near future, we will also have these podcasts on iTunes. We always start with a quote of the day. Quote of the day: failing to plan is planning to fail. Doc, would you like to say something on that?
Yeah, it's actually an excellent quote. Very similar quote by one of our patients who was a Marine that he learned in the Marines. I believe it goes something like piss poor planning produces piss poor results. So you pretty much get what you plan for. I'm very disciplined with what I do, so I try to plan everything in advance. I went camping last week, and what I do is I make a checklist of every single thing that I need, so this way everything I need is going to be there. Same thing like if you're doing a race or something, if you're doing a competition, it just makes things a lot easier. And also due to the fact I brought this up before with like my anxiety issues, one thing that helps that tremendously is planning well for it. Because another thing that raises up my anxiety is when when things aren't planned well, don't have my checklist in place. So I notice that when I do plan things, basically my plans come to fruition only when I'm actually planning ahead for them. How about you, Caroline?
Well, like we were talking earlier, I find that if I have something I'm planning, like a race or something, and if I don't plan for that and, skip runs or skip workouts, I find that I don't do as well as I had planned to do. The second half marathon I ran, I did very poorly because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I skipped runs. It turned out to be terrible. Poor planning, poor results.
On that note, this is a very, very special guest, especially to me, as this is my sister-in-law, Carolyne Barbire. Caroline is a language arts teacher. She is the mother of 2 absolutely beautiful 3-year-old twin babies. She's a wife of a news cameraman who travels a ton for work. Literally at the drop of a hat, he can get called and we need you in London tomorrow morning. And it definitely makes her life a lot more challenging. And as you're going to learn in this podcast, she's kind of been through it all and still manages to get her workouts in, to keep on track with her nutrition. And it kind of goes back to our quote of the day, and it's why I chose the quote for today. It's failing to plan is planning to fail. So Caroline, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like just to build off what you said, it is hard to keep up with it, but with time and doing it frequently, not giving up with it, you do become better at it. Like in the beginning, I was very bad at it, very bad. And that's kind of what we're talking about today is how, I gained a lot of weight and stopped taking care of myself. But then slowly, as you start to figure out kind of what you were saying earlier, planning things. When he goes away, what has to happen in order for my day to go smoothly, and that goes with nutrition as well. So for me, as my past, like how I was.
So yeah, tell us. Start with basically so you were an athlete in high school. You ran track.
I ran
So tell us a little bit about that.
So when I was young, for health, I didn't have to worry much. My mother was, we ate healthy in the house. Never really ordered out. Maybe like on Friday you might have ordered out, but my mother, for the most part, cooked pretty healthy. And I didn't really have to worry. Just luck with genes and, being thin, just luck of the draw, really. And then I ran track. I did hurdles, so I was more of a sprinter than a long distance.
Woke up at 4, did my routine, worked out in my gym, went and put a 50-pound vest on a weighted vest on, mowed the lawn, did all that stuff, and then I had my piece of cheesecake. So basically fasted for a good 12, 14 hours, and then I had my cheesecake. But the great thing about intermittent fasting, especially in the morning, is you're using sleep to increase that intermittent fasting time. So this way you're delving into your fat source for fuel. And I know Dom's been doing a lot, and he's doing like longer distance. He's training for the Boston Marathon. It's actually, when's your marathon in 2 weeks?
I'm running September 8th, so a week and a half.
It's his Boston qualifier, and that's the key, because if you're able to intermittent fast and then get through the day and not get those sugar cravings, your body no longer is dependent upon sugar. And the cool thing about that is that your brain isn't as dependent upon sugar either, so you have more mental clarity. Because if you're forced to utilize sugar for fuel all the time, even for your brain, And then if you don't have carbs, you start feeling like shit. You know, at the end, the middle of the day, you can't think. In regards to athletes, if you, and I know myself, like last week I did a 76-mile ride through a whole bunch of freaking mountains in Pennsylvania, fantastic ride. I ate no sugar. All I had was basically, I fasted right up until about mile, probably like 60, then I had a total of 8 macadamia nuts. But if I was dependent upon sugar, I probably would have bonked by then. Bonking is not a physical thing where your body's giving up because it can't do a physical activity. It's because mentally, your brain's not getting enough fuel. But if you can adapt yourself to burning fat for fuel rather than relying on carbohydrates and sugar, even if you're a very thin marathon runner, you still have, they say, about 30,000 calories of fuel in your body from fat. So ideally, utilizing intermittent fasting with fat adaptive strategy like keto or paleo, that's your best bet, not just for athletic performance, but for cognitive thinking, for disease prevention, basically across the board, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Very good, thanks, Doc.
And
Caroline?
as for the cheesecake,
Oh, delicious.
I agree with treating yourself every once in a while.
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
we talked about this yesterday. Like, I am strict on the, like, Monday through Friday, but come Saturday and Sunday, you know. I mean, I'm not gonna blow it completely, but,
Dominic had a yam last week.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had a yam.
It's not as sexy as cheesecake.
Or a piece of pizza on Sunday.
Right.
You know.
And so Jan indulges, every couple of weeks, he will eat some pizza, Doc.
Sure, I'm not gonna give a pizza. But it's like,
As no one should.
I prepare myself, all right, so usually like every other Saturday, and it hasn't been recent, I haven't had pizza in like a month, but every other Saturday, when I'm really strict keto fat adaptive, I don't believe in like, you know, doing keto for like 3 or 4 days and then going ahead and eating a bunch of carbohydrates. I utilize keto in my own way. I basically don't eat any carbohydrates usually throughout the entire day and just save them all towards my last meal. So this way I get that insulin spike, I get tired, and then go straight to bed. Then I wake up in a fasted state. But what I used to do is every 2 weeks I'd have like 4 or 5 slices of pizza. I'm not giving it up. My wife enjoys pizza. I like to be socially adaptable in different situations too. But I know I'm going to have pizza that day. So I usually don't eat anything throughout the entire day, or if I do, I'm eating lots of greens and lots of veggies. And the same thing comes with meat. I was vegetarian for about 1.5 years, and I learned, I got some wisdom from it. It just wasn't for me. And now what I do is if I eat like meat, a couple servings of meat 2 or 3 days in a row, then maybe that 4th day I'm gonna go vegetarian. You know, just strictly just eat veggies, not because I'm, you know, anti-meat, but it's like, you know, I had a good amount of animal protein. Let me just go back and just be vegetarian for a day or 2. And that's the cool thing about all these strategies. I recommend that everybody try everything. And then they pull a little wisdom from everything, a little bit of wisdom from intermittent fasting. And you don't have to be strict. Everybody starts with this 16-8 window. I'm like, why 16-8? Do 12 and 12. Once you're good at 12 and 12, then you can do like 13-11. You know, gradually get to that 16-8. I do 24-hour fasts, but it took me a while to get to a 24-hour fast. So you just got to get wisdom from each one of these things.
Couldn't agree more. I actually did a 24-hour fast this weekend.
Oh my goodness.
And it was tremendous. I absolutely
That
loved it.
would be a long time.
Caroline, let's talk about anxiety.
Yes.
So,
Oh, it's my good friend.
there's not many,
I am.
my
yes,
opinion, here's my opinion, there's not many people in this world that are not
affected by it.
affected by anxiety.
I feel like everyone is, and some people are, and they don't even realize that's what it is.
That is 100% correct. So the 3 of us in this room have all had our bouts with anxiety.
Yes.
What I'm looking for out of you is I want to know how you holistically cope with it, and honestly, let's talk about how you keep away from taking medication.
Yeah. So about my mid-20s, I didn't even know it was happening. I was on the highway, I was on the parkway going down the shore. Down the shore on vacation, best time, right? And I'm on the highway and I have a panic attack. I don't even know that it was a panic attack. My hands froze up, my feet froze up. I couldn't do anything. I had to pull up on the side of the road, and it was the most horrifying feeling. I actually thought I was gonna die. My friend had to take the wheel, and then that's it. Like, I don't know, have you ever had a full-blown panic attack?
Yeah, that was me 2 years, pretty much 2 years to the day, same exact symptoms.
Yeah.
Cold feet, cold hands, mouth got cold.
I couldn't even move. They were like claws.
Yeah, my
I couldn't do
speaking volume
anything.
usually is this, it went,
Yeah.
talk. Yeah.
I didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah, I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah, exactly. So that had happened, and you know, I feel like when you have a panic attack, it takes a good amount of time for, I don't know, whatever chemicals get released, I don't know, I'm not the doctor, but whatever chemicals get released in your body, it takes a real long time for you to come back down to like square. It takes a long time for your body to come back down. And it could have been, part of the problem could have been that I looked on the internet and then just made all of my anxieties even worse. But then I found out that it was that, and I had talked to, I think I had another panic attack on the highway again, and then I went to a doctor, and he was like, you know, you really have to try something. He gave me some Lexapro. So I ended up trying Lexapro. It was the worst experience I'd ever had. I think you were actually there, Dom, when I had it, and it was worse than anything I've ever felt before, and I called the doctor and said, I am not going to do this. I can't even transition into this. So even if you're going to give me a lower dosage to try to go to a higher dosage to feel myself again, I can't do that. So I started doing research on what kinds of things help anxiety, like acupuncture and eating well. And at the time I was a smoker, yes, believe it or not. I smoked for 10 years. But yeah, I quit smoking, I stopped drinking. I drink now, but at the time when I was just trying to tackle it in the initial stages of it, I stopped drinking. And I got back running. And running was a huge, huge thing for me. And the acupuncture, I think, hands down, acupuncture was one of the best things I ever got involved with. I mean, it helped for so many things. Anxiety, it helped with IVF. I had to do IVF, it helped with my IVF. It helped with, I had migraines, it helped with migraines. It helped me quit smoking. I mean, everything. We
will dabble into your IVF journey, but and you talk about smoking, and all three of us are former smokers.
Yeah.
It's
disgusting to think of now. Like, why was I doing that? What's that?
Doc, would you agree that exercise movement is just such a great medicine? I mean, here she is talking about, she got right back to running, and I know you're very, very active. I am as well, and I feel that when not when I'm training for a specific race, because there's anxiety that comes along with, oh, I have to get this run in, right? So this becomes a job. I'm fine with that, but when I'm not training for anything and it's just waking up and saying, I feel like doing this today, it puts that anxiety kind of at bay. And when you're pushing yourself, I think we were talking about this yesterday.
We actually talked about it yesterday, because I'm a big fan of suffering. 2019 has been my year of suffering. So I've noticed that when you're suffering from other things happening in your life, I noticed that's the best time to really start training your brain, training your body. That's kind of the mantra here. So when you're really pushing yourself, pushing your body past that physiological point where you think you can take it, I think overall it just makes you stronger at everything that you're doing, because you think you're going to give up, but you don't give up. So it gives you that thought process that, whoa, you know, I didn't think I'd get up that hill on my bike, but I did. So it kind of gives you a good foundation to build off. And yeah, it blows off steam as well, gets you tired, so this way you're a little bit more relaxed. But the other cool thing with when you're doing acupuncture or when you're training hard, it also comes down to breathing. Because when you're doing acupuncture, you're relaxed and you're breathing. You're usually diaphragmatically breathing, you're relaxed. You're kind of in a meditative state. Same thing when you run, you get that runner's high. When I'm on the bike, I get so many ideas because my brain escapes to go somewhere else, because I'm doing a monotonous activity, and now basically I'm relaxing because I'm basically focused on my breathing as well. So I don't think it's just the strenuous activity of exercising, but also the breathing concept of it too.
I think too, like the idea of like committing yourself to something. I know you and I have definitely talked about this. When I was going through this, like probably maybe not even, like maybe 2 years after I kind of leveled myself back out, I had read an article about the fact, why is anxiety so prevalent in our society? And everything's so fast paced. What they were saying was, you know, back in the day when someone had to get up in the morning and work on the farm, and there was things that had to be done, you know, they were less prone to anxiety. Well, we think anyway. I mean, but so the idea of committing to something and doing something, like having worth for something, you know, that was a big thing too, like training for a half marathon. Setting a goal for something and working towards that keeps your brain off of other things, you know. I'm not going to think about, I don't know, whatever is bothering me. I can't even think of what, sometimes you don't even know what's causing anxiety.
It's like present time consciousness. It makes a good point, because both, we weren't together, but Dom was separate from where I was, but we were both interacting with Amish people this weekend. And if you're, like you were mentioning, Caroline, and if you want to go do something, if you're Amish, if you want to go somewhere, you have to go to the stable, you have to get the horse, put all the gear on the horse, go get the wagon, hook the horse up to the wagon, and then eventually get there by horse. Where here, you jump in your car, go do this, everything is so fast-paced, nobody has present time consciousness anymore. You're looking at somebody, you're talking to somebody, and they're looking away, they're on their phone, they can't be present with you because they're thinking about this stuff, and that pretty much leads to anxiety. Too much is on your plate.
Yeah,
Too much.
100%.
Yep.
Absolutely. Let's fast forward. So, Caroline, anxiety, you deal with it on and off, and up
For
until this
sure.
day.
I just know how to deal with it now.
That's right. That's right. You become good at it. So let's talk about your process of becoming pregnant and giving birth to these absolutely beautiful 3-year-old, extremely shy girls
Very shy.
who do not all the time love their Uncle Don. Go ahead.
Well, so yeah, I had to do 5 IVF cycles, 3 of which, the first 3, I actually did with a doctor that I question his ethics and the way he went about things. And then on my 4th attempt, I went into Cornell. I went to Cornell and went to one of the top doctors. She's amazing. Like in her presence, you just kind
What was
of
her
knew
name?
Dr. Kang at Cornell. You just knew you were in the presence of like genius, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And she was so cocky, but like her cockiness fueled me. I knew I was in the right place. And, you know, it didn't work the 4th time. And she actually said to me, that was a slam dunk. I don't know what happened. And then actually the 5th IVF cycle I had to pay out of pocket because the insurance no longer covered it. But yeah, so talk about anxiety, right? Like you're trying to get through this major thing in life, but you also know that you're a person who deals with anxiety, so it's trying to level that all out. But I honestly didn't have much to do. Like my anxiety didn't hit that bad then. I can only imagine it's probably like what you're saying, right? Like you're concentrating on something else, so you're not really, you know, I don't have time for the anxiety.
Present time,
Right.
You're in the presence. The presence is I'm trying to get pregnant, IVF,
Right.
take these, take that,
Mhm.
do this, do that, right?
Yeah,
So it
for sure.
kind of puts that anxiety on the back burner. All right, so
IVF is funny though, because so, you know, you go in, you get blood drawn every day, and they're checking hormone levels. So doing the IVF, I learned so much about my body. You know, everyone's body is so different, you know. You have headaches for this reason, that reason. Like, I was getting massive headaches when they were doing the IVF. And when I was able to, like, follow my headaches along with the hormone levels each day, it was because of the drop of estrogen. Like, my estrogen was so low. So it was like, my whole life I dealt with migraines, and at that moment, I was able to, like, put it together, like, oh, it's because it's right around the same time every month, and it's literally like a hormonal issue. And seeing it play out, where you're actually seeing the hormone levels every single day, it was really, like, eye-opening. And it helps me now, because now I can kind of control it. Like, I did a lot with, like, I hate to say the word research, but I look things up a lot. I'm that person who goes on the internet and, like, thinks you're gonna die in 5 minutes. But, like,
that won't cause any anxiety, I promise
like,
you.
literally, I have to, like, keep myself off of certain websites. But I looked it up, and, like, what foods fuel estrogen. So if I start to feel like, okay, this time of the month, I definitely have to make sure that I'm eating enough vegetables that are gonna fuel estrogen levels so that I don't get so depleted and I have a massive migraine, you know?
Let's pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Because you just went to a whole other topic.
I know, I'm like
that
spinning in circles.
It's
Like,
cool.
shoo.
That we want to definitely dwell on, and that's a lot of how you, because I know firsthand from being around you a lot, how much nutrition for you makes everything better. So post pregnancy, you had the babies, you were, for lack of a better word, let's just use ginormous. And I have pictures.
When
to
I was
prove it.
pregnant.
When you were pregnant.
When I was pregnant, I mean, gosh, twins, don't pick on me, but yes, I was big.
You were big.
But I would like to say my arms and my legs were not huge.
No.
My stomach was big.
You were all belly.
I was
So
all belly.
fast forward,
I was all belly.
you had
He's making
you
a
had the
bad name.
babies,
Yes.
and then afterwards,
And afterwards, I don't. It was like a year later that I realized I gained more weight than I had right after the babies. It wasn't right after the babies where I hate to say fat, but for me it was fat. You know, I'm sure for other people when they saw me they were like, she looked fine, but that wasn't it for me. I want to be myself again, and mentally too. You want to be yourself, because even when you look in the mirror and you know you're not you, that's uncomfortable, you know?
So what'd you do?
So what was the first thing I did? I guess I did,
You,
I think it was like 2 years. I think it was like 2 years later, maybe a little longer. And I think I came to you and I asked what I should do. I felt like I was so addicted to sugar and like the crap food. I couldn't stop, I couldn't stop. It was like this weird, your brain doesn't disconnect from wanting the shit.
So Doc, she did a 10-day
10-day cleanse.
10-day cleanse where it's greens and amino acids in the morning and
Yeah.
apothecary at night to help sleep.
I'm pretty positive. Like when I thought I was gonna die. It was the most intense cleanse. 10 days. I lost 12 pounds, which was great, but the whole process of it, I mean,
Totally trying to get off that sugar.
it was
That sugar.
so
She was
hard.
literally going through withdrawals.
It was so bad.
How bad she was addicted to sugar.
Yeah, they say the sugar's like a drug. It's like right up there with heroin, with the addictive nature.
It was so
Yeah,
bad.
totally.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and my cousin was doing it with me at the time, and she was having the same experience. I mean, she literally was like, I think she had 2 guys in Whole Foods. She was going to get lunch at Whole Foods, and she had 2 guys have to help her carry her out. She was like about to faint. It was so intense, but
And that
I mean,
goes
it did
to
the job.
But it goes to show. So you see when you're off it what it's doing to you, right?
Oh yeah,
So while you're on it, Anjay, we're talking like the drug. We're literally talking about when I was on it. But really, I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
To have withdrawals like that,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
obviously something bad for your body.
100%.
Anybody that tries to quit smoking, quit drinking, you feel those withdrawals, try to get off the drug.
I remember day 3 of the cleanse, driving home from work and not even being clear, like being like, just get yourself home and sit on the couch. Like I remember being like, I couldn't even.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Well, again, your body becomes so dependent on using sugar for fuel all
Mhm.
the time. It has the machinery, because when you're an infant, you're using fat for fuel. But when you're an adult, and because we got this standard American crap diet that we're hooked on, which is all basically sugar and grains, you don't use that fat burning machinery anymore, and then now you're trying to get off sugar and your body doesn't know how to burn fat.
Yeah.
It hasn't done it in years. So the switch could be pretty significant, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, so Caroline, 10-day cleanse. After the 10-day
I lost
cleanse,
12 pounds.
what are
And
we
you
talking?
visually.
What kind of a weight? Where were you in reference to where you wanted to be?
Oh
or
my god,
wanted
I
to be?
think I was like 165. I think.
And what do you?
And
What
I'm
would you
5'5",
say?
so.
But what would you say prior to getting pregnant? Like, what's your base weight? I know you don't mind talking about it.
No, I don't. So I think you got to think too. I was doing IVF for like 2.5 to 3 years.
All right, pre the IVF.
Okay.
Your normal.
Ideal. I was in the 135.
Okay.
That was where I would like to be. I would teeter between up to like 140, 142. You know, in the fall. You know, the fall and the winter. But
Pumpkin spice time.
yeah.
So you.
So then I was about 160, 165. The day that I started, I measured at 161. But
Okay.
I know I might have been a little bit more than that
Okay.
at some point. And then with the cleanse, then I was brought down to 12. And you know, people are like, oh, you do a cleanse and the weight comes right back. It's like, yeah, if you go back to eating the way you were eating.
Sure.
But you know, once I had that addiction off, then I went healthy. That was it. All I needed was to get off of that. I
It's
need
like a
it
catalyst.
now.
It
Yeah.
gets everything going in the
Yeah.
right direction. Yeah, totally.
For sure. So you start to eat a little bit better, right?
After the cleanse, then I started working out because I couldn't work out on the cleanse. I had no energy. I was so exhausted. So then I started working out again. And I was just walking. I really wasn't running. I was walking. I bought a treadmill for $300, like a real cheapy treadmill, just so I could have in my basement. My husband was like, it's gonna dry clothes. You're gonna put clothes on it. You're never gonna use it. I was like, that's not true. I mean, he dries his clothes on it now. So yeah, someone's drying their clothes, but not me. I'm using it.
How did you actually pick the treadmill up? Oh, right.
Yes, you.
Okay.
I
Very
made
good.
him set it up too.
So
I think Jimmy was actually, my husband was actually away, and I had to wait for him to be away because he didn't want it to be in the basement. So I made him, when he was away on vacation, not vacation, he'll kill me for
Work.
saying that.
Work.
For work, I made Dump set it up. Yeah.
So fast forward, you just ran a half marathon in April.
Half marathon in April, which I've run it 2 times prior, so I've run it 3 times so far. In April, it was my best time.
Which half marathon?
The New Jersey half marathon.
Long
in
Branch,
Branch, yeah. I ran it in 2:15, which I really believe I ran it 2:10 when I look at my watch. my watch said 2:10, but official time is 2:15. That was the fastest I've ever run it. So I was very proud of my results. My results, I wanted 2:15 and I got 2:15.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What are you currently doing? I'm going to say today, like not exactly what you did today, but what are you doing today as far as training? Because you're not signed up for any events, right?
I'm not signed up for any events. I wanted to switch after the half marathon and start running. There was a 5K that I really wanted to go back and tackle because it was the first 5K I ran, getting back in shape, and I had this really horrible experience there. Do you want me to hear? Yeah.
Sure, let's hear it. This is comical.
So I was training, well no, I wasn't even training, I was just walking. I was walking and my cousin was walking with me and she's like, I signed us up for a 5K. It was like, I think it was Westwood. And I was like, okay, fine. Turns out when the weekend arrived, she couldn't make it. So I was like, I don't want to be like a quitter. I hate being that person who doesn't show up, you know? So I went by myself. And it was like, that took a lot for me to go back, do this by myself. You go, and I'm, you know the crowd, and everyone's there with someone. I'm by myself. So I run the race, and like I said, I wasn't back and running. And then turns out, you know how they post the times as they're coming through.
Right.
They post the times as they're coming through, and it had me as like third in my age group. I don't know. In my head, I'm just thinking, well, I'm older. Last time I did one of these, I was like under 30. You know, so I was like, maybe just I'm in an older age group. Maybe I am third in my age group. So I stick around for like the final event, where they're like announcing the names. But then I see there's a lot of commotion, like seems like anyone who signed up that day, I don't know what happened, but I'm assuming anyone who signed up that day, their times weren't registering as like the people who registered prior. So I wait around hours while they're trying to fix this issue. And they announced me as the winner, third in my age group, right? I'm third in my age group. I'm so excited. I can't even believe it. It's crazy. Note to self, don't forget, I'm by myself. And embarrassment is tougher to take when you're by yourself, guys.
For sure.
It's so hard because you have no one to laugh it off with. Well, they call my name. I start to walk up. The whole crowd is there. And they're like, wait, no, it's not her. It's this person. I was literally, like, did you ever see like that Homer Simpson meme,
Yeah.
the Homer Simpson gif where he inches back into the bushes?
Yeah.
That was totally me. I left. I think I cried in the car on the way home. Like I was so, and out of embarrassment, not like I don't care if I got it or not.
Right.
It was if I got it, it was just a bonus. It was just embarrassing. I had no one to laugh off it. But yeah, really funny. I mean, in the time it wasn't funny, but yeah. So that actually was a catalyst for me to start running again. I was like, I'm going back for that 5K. I'm gonna attack that 5K, but I never went back for it. I did the half marathon and then just kind of didn't do it.
We'll do it next year.
I'm spinning. I'm sorry.
It's
Am I
okay.
spinning?
Quite all right. Quite all right. So currently, and I know as well, but so you work out in your basement. You've got a treadmill in your basement.
Mhm.
You do this when your babies are napping or sleeping or whenever you can fit it in. I'm well aware of this, and I think it's true. I commend you. I truly commend you.
Thanks.
Talk a little bit about your current nutrition. So we know you intermittent fast, which is tremendous, and you're seeing results from that. What else? What do you do? Are you more whole food? Are you what are your?
I do stick with I try to stick with whole foods when I can. Also, like we've been saying, time is really difficult. Especially when I get back to work. When I get back to work and trying to manage everything. So I mean, I stick with whole foods. I try to plan as much as I can ahead of time. If I have to go to the store and get a rotisserie, there's a rotisserie in my chicken. There's a rotisserie in my chicken. There's in my kitchen, in my fridge, there's always a rotisserie. Because if I want to just snack on something, I don't want to go for the box of cereal or the Cheez-Its, I don't even have those in my house.
That goes back to our quote about planning ahead.
Yeah.
So basically, you plan ahead, stick a rotisserie in the fridge. This way, you get hungry instead of eating some crap. You can just access that right in the fridge.
That and boiled eggs. I always have boiled eggs because during school.
Quick
In the
eat.
summer, it's different. Like summer, it's like when I'm off of work. But
Do you ever go to farms or anything like that?
I do.
Oh, really? How often?
Once a week. I have a farm share. They call it a CSA. I don't know if you ever.
Yeah.
I have a farm share with Atlas Farm in Wyckoff, and I go every Tuesday and pick up whatever was ready to be harvested that day. It's actually really great.
Tremendous. No, Caroline,
It's
really.
just,
It's
it is
tremendous.
great. It's just the drive is really hard
Right.
sometimes.
Right, but you do it.
But it is, yeah. It is a great thing. I get fresh milk and eggs, which is, yeah.
Any supplementation, what kind of supplements do you take these days?
So I'm taking the amino acids. I'm doing, like I said,
When do you do the amino acids?
I do it in the morning, so I do it before I work out. Even if I'm not gonna work out in the
Pause
morning.
1 second. You work out fasting?
I work out fasted.
Doc, any comments on working out fasting?
Yeah, it's smart to, it's also smart to take your amino acids prior to working out in the morning too, so this way you're gonna be more of a anabolic state. Because when you're fasted, it's not that you're gonna start burning muscle immediately once you start working out when you're in a fasted state, but just having those aminos available for your body, not just to rebuild muscle tissue that you can break down while training, but amino acids also increase your energy levels too. So this way you're going to go ahead and, it's better to take your amino acids prior to training rather than the whole concept of getting that protein shake immediately after you're done, because there's not much basis for that, not much research. The ideal time to take your amino acids are right before you work out in a fasted state, and then prior to going to bed too, because when you're going to bed, that's pretty much when your body does its repair and your growth and everything. So this way you want to make sure that your body has all the tools it needs to go through that growing, that anabolic phase. That's great.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. Anything else, supplementation?
Well, you know, when I was training for the half marathon, on my long runs, like Sunday long run day, I would do the aminos and 3 Motrin before I went out. And before I was doing the 3 Motrin, I don't know if you guys would even think that's something that works, but before I was doing the 3 Motrin, I would feel pain around like mile 7, and just push the pain back to about 8.5. And then when I would get home from the long runs, I have oil of oregano that I take. I would take oil of oregano after, because I noticed running through the winter is really difficult in the sense of,
Sure.
when I would come back, I would have such bad, like, I couldn't stop sneezing and coughing, and it would last only like 24 hours, but it was so intense. So I would use that for immunity.
In regards to like the Motrin, that's what a lot of people were doing, and not a big fan of it because you really can't feel the pain. I'm kind of like the ideology where pain's your friend, telling you what to do, what not to do. And I'm doing these long distance cycling events every weekend now, and what I do is I use CBD. So I actually just started working with Floyd's of Leadville. It's owned by Floyd Landis, who won the Tour de France a couple years ago. And he comes out with this product. It's a CBD product where you basically take these little gels, and usually like around mile 60, 70, my hips and my knees get a little achy and cranky. I noticed when I started taking these little, they're like little gummy bears, I guess, but they're round. When I would take them at like 50 milligrams, basically within 2-3 minutes of taking it, a significant amount of that pain went down. So I'm a huge fan of taking CBD because it's also great for anxiety because it down-regulates everything. Down-regulates your stress, down-regulates your pain. Pretty much everything is controlled by this cannabinoid system in the body, and we're just learning more and more about it. So I tell people now, instead of using the Advil or the Motrin, I was talking to a runner this morning, like, don't take your Advil before you run, try CBD. But I've noticed that majority of the oral pills that I would take didn't work too great, but I vape CBD before I get on the bike, especially when I'm doing long distance, and I always bring some of these Floyd of Leadville CBD gummies as well. Work fantastic.
Interesting.
We will, afterwards, we'll discuss that a little bit. But Caroline, what really I'd like to hear from you, and I think people should really hear this, is with your busy schedule, a husband who travels like he does, and like I said, at the drop of a hat, 2 babies, you work full-time, you're a teacher. When you come home, work doesn't necessarily end. How do you manage? You're fit. I mean, look at you, you're fit. You're out there running, you're training, you just ran a half marathon. You look great.
Thanks.
For a mom of 2 kids.
For a mom of 2 kids.
Yeah. I mean, I have pictures of you. You were huge. How do you do it? How do you pull it all together?
Well, like we were saying before, you know, a lot of planning. Planning is super important. Planning the food, planning, but planning the runs, I don't necessarily have that luxury. Like you're saying, my husband, he travels, so sometimes, you know, I could say, oh, I'm gonna run in the afternoon, and then I'm getting a phone call from him around 1:30, and like, he's like, I gotta go, and then I have to figure out how I'm gonna fit that run in, or if I'm just gonna skip it, or where the workout's gonna come. So I always say to Dom, it's a beg, borrow, and steal time from other
Sure,
people.
totally.
You know, it's like, who is watching my kids, like my mom watching the kids, and then me just kind of coming home a half hour later, you know, and hoping she's okay with it, or asking her, or, you know, dropping them by Dom and my sister-in-law, my sister, you know, whatever works, you know. That's really how, everybody's help really helps.
What about as far as nutrition?
Nutrition is planning it and things like that.
Planning it. So what do you do? Do you take food to work? Do you?
Oh, all the time. So I'll do things like, when I cook dinner, I always cook more than I need. And then when I'm cleaning up dinner that night, my lunch gets packed while I'm cleaning up. Or else it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. There's no way.
Planning.
Planning
Can't
is
get
big.
around it, it's discipline and planning.
Yeah,
Food moves
planning is
forward,
everything.
so.
Absolutely.
For everything.
Very good. Would really like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for coming here and
Sure.
doing this podcast.
It's fun.
That's the end of our podcast for today. Again, I'm Dominic Carrillo with your co-host, Dr. Jan Kaspowitz. If you like what you hear and would like more information, follow us on Facebook or YouTube at Elite Performance Team, or you can visit our website, which is eliteperformanceteam.org. If you enjoy the content, leave a comment, share with your friends that may enjoy our podcast as well. You can find this podcast as well on iTunes coming up soon, and our website, eliteperformanceteam.org. Until next week, keep training and absolutely no excuses.